I still remember the echo of my footsteps in that empty church aisle. September 15th, 2018. My wedding day. The front row where my parents should have been sitting remained vacant, a gaping hole in what was supposed to be the happiest moment of my life. David squeezed my hand as we exchanged vows, but I could not stop glancing at those empty chairs. My family chose to skip my wedding because I was getting married before my older sister Madison, their golden child. Little did they know their perfect family image was about to crumble in ways they never imagined. Before we dive into this story, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments below, and do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. Trust me, this tale has twists that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about family loyalty. Growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, I learned early that I would always live in Madison's shadow. Our house on Maple Street was filled with her achievements, while mine seemed invisible. Dad worked as an accountant at a mid-sized firm, and Mom pulled night shifts as a registered nurse at Cleveland Clinic. They both worked hard to provide for us, but their attention always gravitated toward Madison like she was the sun, and I was just a distant planet. Madison excelled at everything effortlessly. She graduated valedictorian from our high school captain of the cheerleading squad and earned a full scholarship to Stanford University. Her bedroom walls were covered with certificates, trophies, and ribbons. Meanwhile, my walls displayed amateur paintings I created during art classes, which nobody seemed to notice or care about. I remember one particular evening when I was 14. I had worked for weeks on a charcoal portrait of our golden retriever Buddy for the school art competition. I was so excited to show my parents when they returned from Madison's regional debate championship. I waited up until nearly midnight, my drawing carefully positioned on the kitchen counter where they could not miss it. When they finally walked through the door, Madison was practically glowing with pride, carrying another first-place trophy. Mom and Dad immediately launched into celebration mode, ordering pizza and calling relatives to share the news. My artwork sat there unnoticed until Mom finally spotted it while clearing the counter the next morning. "Oh, sweetie, this is nice," she said absently, barely glancing at it before shoving it into a drawer with old bills and grocery store coupons. That moment crystallized something painful inside me. I was not just the second child, I was the afterthought. High school followed the same pattern. Madison breezed through advanced placement classes while I struggled in regular courses. She dated the student council president while I spent weekends alone reading in my bedroom or experimenting with watercolors. When college applications came around, the difference became even more stark. Madison had her pick of prestigious universities while I enrolled in the local community college to study graphic design. The day Madison left for Stanford, our house felt different. Mom cried for hours, and Dad kept mentioning how proud he was. When I moved to my dorm at Cuyahoga Community College just 20 minutes away, they helped me unpack in silence and left after an hour. No tears, no lingering hugs, no expressions of pride. Just a practical goodbye and reminders to call if I needed anything. During my second year at community college, I made a decision that changed everything. I applied to Portland State University in Oregon to finish my graphic design degree. I craved distance from the constant comparisons and the suffocating feeling of never being enough. When I told my parents about the transfer, they seemed more concerned about the cost than my happiness or educational goals. "Are you sure this is wise, Samantha?" Dad asked, reviewing the tuition numbers. "You could finish here for much less money." Mom added, "Madison is doing so well at Stanford. Maybe you should consider something more practical like accounting or nursing." I packed my bags anyway. Portland welcomed me with Rain coffee shops and the first taste of independence I had ever experienced. For the first time in my life, I was not automatically compared to Madison. My professors appreciated my artistic eye, and my classmates saw me as Samantha, not Madison's little sister. It was at Powell's Books on Burnside that I met David Chin. I was browsing the art section, completely absorbed in a book about contemporary illustration techniques, when I accidentally bumped into someone reaching for the same shelf. "Sorry," I mumbled, looking up to see warm brown eyes and a genuine smile. "No problem," he said, holding up a programming manual. "Looks like we are both here for very different reasons." David was 25, a software engineer who had moved to Portland from Seattle for a job at a tech startup. Unlike every guy I had dated before, he actually listened when I talked about my dreams of becoming a freelance graphic designer. He did not try to steer me toward more practical career choices or suggest I was aiming too high. Our relationship developed slowly and naturally. David would take me to art galleries in the Pearl District, and I would listen to him explain coding concepts that fascinated him. He celebrated my small victories, like landing my first freelance logo design project, with the same enthusiasm my parents had shown for Madison's major achievements. After dating for 2 years, David proposed on a rainy Thursday evening in November 2016. We had returned to Powell's Books, the place where we met, and he got down on one knee right there in the art section. The ring was perfect, a simple platinum band with a small diamond that caught the bookstore's warm lighting beautifully. I was 25 years old, financially independent, deeply in love, and ready to build a life with someone who valued me. Naturally, I wanted to share this joy with my family. That phone call home marked the beginning of a nightmare I never could have anticipated. "Hello, Mom," I said, unable to contain my excitement. "I have incredible news." "What is it, honey?" She responded, though I could hear the television in the background and knew I did not have her full attention. "David proposed. We are engaged." The silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Mom spoke, her voice lacking any trace of excitement or warmth. "That is nice, dear. Madison is still focused on her career at the law firm. She mentioned she might start dating again soon now that she has established herself professionally." My heart sank. Even my engagement announcement became about Madison somehow. "Mom, did you hear what I said? I am engaged. David and I are planning to get married next fall." "Yes, I heard you. It just seems a bit sudden, does it not? Madison is 30 and still single. According to tradition, the older daughter typically marries first." I stared at the phone, unable to believe what I was hearing. "Tradition, Mom. This is 2016, not 1816. Your father and I just think you should consider waiting a bit. Madison has been seeing someone new, and who knows? Maybe she will get engaged soon, too. It would be strange for the younger sister to marry first." When Dad took the phone, his message was even more direct. "Samantha, we hope you will think carefully about the timing. Madison is the eldest, and there are certain expectations in our family about order and respect." I hung up, feeling like someone had punched me in the stomach. David found me crying in our kitchen an hour later, the engagement ring feeling suddenly heavy on my finger. Despite my parents' lukewarm reaction, I threw myself into wedding planning with determination. David and I decided on a small ceremony in Portland, followed by a reception at a charming venue in the Hawthorne district. We sent save-the-date cards in February, including one to my parents and another specifically for Madison. Planning should have been joyful, but every decision felt overshadowed by my family's obvious disapproval. When I called to discuss details, Mom would change the subject to Madison's latest work accomplishments or ask if we had reconsidered the timing. In March, Madison called me directly for the first time in months. Her voice carried a tension I had never heard before. "So, Samantha, I need to ask you something important. Is there any way you could postpone the wedding? Maybe until next spring." I was sitting at my desk reviewing catering options when her request hit me like a slap. "Postpone Madison. We have already put down deposits." "Why would I do that?" "Well, I have been seeing someone new, Dr. Jonathan Pierce. He is a cardiothoracic surgeon at Cleveland Clinic. Things are getting serious, and I think he might propose soon. It would just be easier for everyone if I got married first." The audacity of her request left me speechless for several seconds. Easier for everyone, or easier for you? Do not be difficult, Samantha. You know how important family harmony is. I am 30 years old. I have worked incredibly hard to build my career, and now I finally found someone worthy of marriage. It would be embarrassing for me if my little sister got married first." "Embarrassing for you." My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. "This is my life, Madison. David and I have been planning this for months." "You are being selfish," she snapped. "You have always been selfish. Ever since we were kids, you never considered how your actions affected the family. This is just another example." I ended the call without saying goodbye, my hands shaking with rage and hurt. David found me pacing our living room, tears streaming down my face. "What happened?" he asked, immediately wrapping me in his arms. When I explained Madison's demand, his expression darkened. That is completely unreasonable. You cannot be serious about considering it. I am not considering it, I said firmly. But they are going to make our wedding miserable. I was right. 2 weeks later, both parents called together presenting what they termed their final decision. Samantha, Dad's voice was stern and formal. Your mother and I have discussed this extensively. We believe you should postpone your wedding until after Madison has had her opportunity to marry first. It is about respect and tradition, Mom added. Madison has worked so hard and she deserves this moment. You can wait another year. And if I refuse? I asked, though I already suspected their answer. The silence stretched uncomfortably before Dad spoke again. Then we will not be attending your wedding. My heart stopped. You are giving me an ultimatum, change my wedding date, or you will not come. We are asking you to consider your family's feelings and do the right thing. Mom said, her voice taking on that manipulative tone I remembered from childhood arguments. The right thing. The right thing would be supporting your daughter on the most important day of her life, regardless of some arbitrary birth order. This is not arbitrary, Dad interrupted. Madison is the elder daughter. She has always been responsible and thoughtful about family considerations. We expected the same from you. The conversation deteriorated from there. Madison got on the line at some point supporting our parents and accusing me of being inconsiderate and immature. The three of them presented a united front against me as they always had. When I finally hung up, I sat in stunned silence. David held me while I cried, promising that his family would fill any empty seats and that our wedding would be beautiful regardless. September 15th arrived with perfect early fall weather. Portland's trees were just beginning to change colors, and the morning light filtered through our bedroom window with golden warmth. I should have been filled with excitement and anticipation. Instead, I woke up with a knot in my stomach and my phone in my hand, desperately hoping for a last-minute message from my family. Nothing. David's parents, Susan and Mark, arrived early to help with final preparations. They had flown in from Phoenix and immediately treated me like the daughter they never had. Susan helped me with my dress and makeup while Mark coordinated with the photographer and wedding party. You look absolutely radiant, Susan said, adjusting my veil. David is the luckiest man alive. I managed to smile, but my eyes kept drifting to my phone. Even at the very last moment, I held on to hope that my parents might change their minds. The church was small but filled with love. David's extended family occupied most of the groom's side, while my side was populated by college friends and co-workers I had grown close to in Portland. The front row on my side remained conspicuously empty. Walking down the aisle without my father was one of the most difficult moments of my life. I had asked David's father to escort me, and Mark performed the role with dignity and genuine affection. Still, every step reminded me of what was missing. David waited at the altar, looking handsome in his navy suit, his eyes filled with love and concern for me. When I reached him, he whispered, "You are the most beautiful bride I have ever seen." The ceremony proceeded smoothly, but I could not shake the awareness of those empty seats. Several guests glanced toward the vacant front row with obvious confusion. During the exchange of rings, I heard someone whisper, "Where is her family?" Our reception was held at a restored warehouse venue with exposed brick walls and string lights creating a warm, intimate atmosphere. David's family went out of their way to include me in their conversations and traditions. His Aunt Margaret gave a toast, welcoming me to the family that brought tears to my eyes. "To Samantha and David," she said, raising her glass. "May your love be the foundation for a family built on support, acceptance, and genuine care for each other." Throughout the evening, I checked my phone obsessively. No texts, no calls, no acknowledgement that this day even existed for my biological family. When we cut the cake, I smiled for photos while my heart broke a little more. The last dance was bittersweet. David held me close as we swayed to "At Last" by Etta James, and I tried to focus on the man I loved rather than the people who had chosen not to witness our commitment to each other. "I love you, Mrs. Chen," David whispered in my ear as the song ended. "I love you too," I replied. meaning it completely while simultaneously grieving the family relationships that felt irreparably damaged. Our honeymoon in Hawaii provided a temporary escape from the family drama, but reality waited for us back in Portland. 3 months passed without any contact from Cleveland. No phone calls, no text messages, no acknowledgement that David and I even existed. I threw myself into building my freelance graphic design business landing contracts with local restaurants and small businesses. Success felt hollow when I had nobody from my original family to share it with, but David celebrated every achievement as if it were his own. David's frustration with my family's treatment grew stronger each day. "They are punishing you for living your own life," he said one evening after I had spent an hour staring at my phone, debating whether to call home. "Maybe I should reach out first," I suggested. "Try to repair the relationship." "Why should you have to repair anything you did not do anything wrong? You got married to someone who loves you. That should be cause for celebration, not punishment." He was right, but logic did not ease the pain of feeling completely cut off from the people who raised me. I had lost my entire biological family in one devastating blow. In January 2019, social media delivered the next punch to my already wounded heart. Madison's engagement announcement appeared on Facebook with professional photos and glowing captions about her perfect relationship with Dr. Jonathan Pierce. The engagement party looked like something from a magazine. The Cleveland Country Club provided an elegant backdrop for what Mom described as the celebration our family has been waiting for. Photos showed Madison radiant in a designer dress, surrounded by extended family members and family friends I recognized from my childhood. I was not invited, not even mentioned. It was as if I had been completely erased from the family narrative. David found me crying over my laptop at 2 a.m, scrolling through dozens of photos that documented a celebration I was deliberately excluded from. "This is insane," he said, looking at the pictures over my shoulder. "They are acting like you do not exist." "Maybe it is better this way," I said, closing the laptop. "Clearly they have made their choice." "No, it is not better. You deserve so much more than this." Spring arrived with the usual Portland rain, and I tried to focus on building our life together. David and I had started talking about buying a house and maybe starting a family of our own. These conversations brought excitement mixed with sadness, knowing my children would grow up without grandparents on my side. Then in June, my cousin Emma called with information that shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. Emma was 3 years younger than me and had always been closer to Madison growing up. She lived in Cleveland and occasionally appeared in my family's social media posts, so I was surprised when her name appeared on my phone screen. "Samantha," she said, her voice nervous and hesitant. "I have been debating whether to call you for weeks. There are things you need to know about what has been happening here." My stomach clenched with anticipation. "What kind of things?" "About Madison, about your parents." "About why they really did not want you to get married first." Emma proceeded to unravel everything. Madison's engagement to Dr. Jonathan Pierce had imploded spectacularly in April. The breakup was not mutual, as my parents had claimed on social media. Jonathan had discovered Madison's gambling addiction when he found evidence of massive debts she had hidden from everyone. Gambling addiction. I repeated, unable to process what I was hearing. Online poker, sports betting, casino trips. She had been hiding it for years. Jonathan found out she owed over $50,000 to various creditors. She had even borrowed money from your parents' retirement fund to cover some of the debts. The perfect daughter, the golden child who could do no wrong, had been living a completely different reality than what my parents presented to the world. Emma continued with more devastating revelations. Madison was currently unemployed, having been let go from her law firm position for performance issues related to her gambling problem. She had moved back in with our parents, who were struggling financially because of the money they had spent covering her debts and supporting her. "Your parents knew about her problems for years," Emma said. "They covered for her, made excuses, and bailed her out repeatedly. That is part of why they were so upset about your wedding timing. They knew Madison's life was falling apart, but they wanted to maintain the perfect family image until she could get back on track." I sat in stunned silence, my entire understanding of my family dynamics shifting like tectonic plates. All those years of being treated as the lesser daughter, the problematic one, the family disappointment. Meanwhile, Madison had been struggling with serious addiction issues that my parents had hidden and enabled. "Are you still there?" Emma asked. "Yes, I am here. I cannot believe this." "There is more," she said reluctantly. "Your mom has been picking up extra shifts at the hospital to help cover Madison's expenses. Your dad is talking about delaying his retirement. They are both stressed and exhausted, but they refuse to admit that their approach with Madison has been wrong." After hanging up with Emma, I sat in my living room for hours processing everything. David came home from work to find me staring out the window, completely lost in thought. "What happened?" he asked, immediately recognizing my expression. When I told him everything Emma had revealed, his reaction was swift and angry. "So they sacrificed their relationship with you to protect someone who was actively deceiving and stealing from them." "She is sick," I said, though the words felt strange. "Addiction is a disease. Being sick does not excuse their treatment of you. You were honest, responsible, and living your life with integrity. She was lying and stealing. Yet you were the one they punished." David was right, but the revelation felt more complicated than simple anger could address. I felt vindicated and heartbroken simultaneously. Vindicated because the perfect daughter narrative had been completely false. Heartbroken because my parents had chosen to enable Madison's destructive behavior rather than maintain a relationship with their healthy, stable daughter. For months, I wrestled with what to do with this information. Part of me wanted to call my parents immediately and confront them with the truth. Another part wanted to maintain the distance and continue building my life without them. David supported whatever decision I made, but encouraged me to consider my own mental health first. "You do not owe them forgiveness or understanding," he told me repeatedly. "They made their choices." I spent weeks researching gambling addiction, trying to understand what Madison had been going through. The more I learned, the more I realized how serious her problems were and how poorly my parents had handled the situation. Enabling and covering for an addict typically made the problem worse, not better. By December, I had made my decision. I was going to Cleveland for Christmas uninvited and unannounced. It was time for honest conversations and real consequences for the choices my family had made. The flight from Portland to Cleveland felt endless. I had not been back to Ohio since moving away for college, and seeing the familiar skyline brought a rush of complicated emotions. David had offered to come with me, but I felt this confrontation needed to happen alone. I rented a car and drove to my childhood home on Maple Street. The house looked smaller and more worn than I remembered. Dad's car in the driveway had several dents, and the front yard needed attention. These were not the visual markers of a family maintaining their perfect image. I knocked on the front door at 6 in the evening on December 23rd, timing my arrival for when I knew they would be home, but before any extended family Christmas gatherings. Dad answered the door, and his face went through a series of expressions I had never seen before. Surprise, guilt, defensiveness, and something that might have been relief. "Samantha," he said quietly, "we were not expecting you." "I know. May I come in?" The living room felt frozen in time with the same furniture and family photos from my childhood. Madison sat on the couch in sweatpants and an oversized sweater, looking thinner and older than in her engagement photos. Mom emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "What are you doing here?" Madison asked, her voice lacking its usual confidence. "I came to talk to all of you," I said, remaining standing while they sat. "About honesty, about consequences, about the choices this family has made." "I do not know what you mean," Mom said, but her eyes darted nervously toward Madison. "I know about the gambling addiction. I know about the debts. I know about Dr. Pierce and why the engagement really ended. I know you have been covering for Madison while refusing to even acknowledge my marriage." The room fell completely silent. Madison's face crumpled and she started crying. Dad stared at the floor, and Mom's complexion went pale. "Who told you?" Mom asked finally. "Does it matter? What matters is that you chose your perfect daughter over me, missed my wedding, and cut me out of your lives to protect someone who was lying to you and stealing from you." Madison looked up through her tears. "I never meant for any of this to happen." "But it did happen," I said, my voice steady despite the emotions churning inside me. And instead of dealing with it honestly, our parents enabled your behavior and punished me for living my life responsibly. Dad finally spoke. We were trying to help her. She needed us. I needed you too, I said, my voice breaking slightly. I needed you at my wedding. I needed you to celebrate my happiness instead of treating it like a family betrayal. Mom started crying then. We did not know how to handle Madison's problems. We were ashamed and scared. We thought if we could keep things quiet and help her get back on track, everything would work out. Instead, you lost one daughter while enabling the other's self-destruction. The conversation continued for 2 hours. Madison admitted the extent of her gambling problem and the lies she had told to cover it. She was in therapy but had relapsed twice since the broken engagement. My parents acknowledged they had handled everything poorly, but struggled to admit their treatment of me was wrong. I am done enabling your dysfunction, I told them as I prepared to leave. I am done being the scapegoat for this family's problems. Madison, I hope you get the help you need, but not at my expense anymore. What does that mean? Dad asked. It means I am building a life with people who value honesty and treat me with respect. You are welcome to be part of that life if you can acknowledge your mistakes and change your behavior. Otherwise, I am done. I left Cleveland that night feeling lighter than I had in years. The weight of trying to earn their approval and understanding why they rejected me was finally off my shoulders. Flying back to Portland on Christmas Eve, I looked down at the clouds and thought about the family David and I were building together. We had started trying for children, and the idea of raising a daughter who would never question her worth because of arbitrary family hierarchies filled me with hope. 6 months later, Madison called me. She had completed a 90-day inpatient treatment program and was working on making amends to people she had hurt. Our conversation was awkward, but honest. She apologized for her role in our parents' treatment of me and acknowledged that her problems had been used to justify hurting me. I know I cannot fix what happened, she said, but I want you to know that you were right. About everything. I cautiously began rebuilding a relationship with Madison, but I maintained boundaries with my parents. They never fully apologized or acknowledged the wrongness of their choices. Pride prevented them from admitting they had sacrificed one daughter's happiness to enable another's destruction. In 2021, David and I welcomed our daughter Lily. Looking at her perfect little face, I made a promise that she would grow up knowing her value was not conditional on anyone else's approval or problems. My parents have never met their granddaughter. They send birthday cards with money but have never asked to visit or invited us home. The price of their pride has been a relationship with their grandchild and any possibility of repairing the damage they caused. Madison visits us in Portland occasionally. She has been sober for over 2 years and works as a paralegal while continuing her recovery. Our relationship will probably never be close, but we have found a way to be kind to each other. The most important lesson I learned through this painful experience is that family is not just about blood relations. The family you choose to surround yourself with can love you more authentically than the family you were born into. David's parents became the grandparents Lily deserves. Our friends became the support system I always needed. Sometimes people ask if I regret not postponing my wedding to keep peace with my family. The answer is always no. Marrying David when I did was the right decision for us, and requiring me to sacrifice my happiness for Madison's image was wrong regardless of her personal struggles. I have learned to value myself the way I want Lily to value herself, unconditionally, without needing external validation or approval to know my worth. My daughter will grow up understanding that love should never come with impossible conditions or require her to diminish herself for someone else's comfort. That is the gift I can give her that my parents never gave me. And honestly, that feels like the best possible outcome from everything that happened. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have postponed your wedding to keep peace with your family? Or would you have stood your ground like I did? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics and finding your own path. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that their worth is not determined by family approval. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it reminds you that you deserve relationships built on genuine love and respect, not conditional acceptance.